Hello, I am Susan Mark. I am an outreach librarian at the Wyoming State Library, and we are here today with Cheryl O'Brien. Cheryl is the author of World War II POW Camps of Wyoming, which was selected as Wyoming's Great Read as part of the National Book Festival for 2020. The Great Read of Wyoming is part of the Discover Great Places Through Reading list that represents the literary heritage of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And this was selected as part of the Wyoming Center for the Book, which is a program of the State Library. So welcome, Cheryl.
Well, thank you, Susan. And it was an honor for my book to be chosen as Wyoming's 2020 Great Read.
It was an honor well deserved. Cheryl, why don't you tell us a little bit about your book?
Okay. World War II POW Camps of Wyoming is about the 19 POW camps that were established here in Wyoming, and the importance of all the work that the prisoners did and how they saved the agricultural and timber crops is highlighted in my book. In addition, I included stories and memories by the U.S. military staff and the prisoners and the residents that lived in the communities around these camps to kind of help personalize the history of Wyoming World War II POW camps and give you a better idea what it was like to live and work in the camps.
You know, a lot of authors like to talk about how they got their start. What really inspired you to write?
Well, I've always been very interested in World War II history. My father served in the Army Air Forces during World War II. And my husband and I had visited the Camp Du Bois site. And we were just amazed that there was a World War II POW camp right in our backyard, and that so little was known about the camp and the prisoners that worked there.
So how did this particular book come about?
I spent over 3 years doing extensive research on Camp Du Bois. And during my research, I learned more about the other Wyoming POW camps too. And then I also realized how little information was known about those camps as well. So I decided to expand my research and include all the Wyoming POW camps in my book.
So you did a lot of research. Now, can you tell us some about that process and about some of the places you went to for it?
Yes. My research included reviewing historic records from many sources, including the National and State Archives, local and state libraries. And my husband and I spent a lot of time reviewing old newspapers. And the newspapers were a great source of information. They provided a chronological account of the establishment of the camps and the work the prisoners did as the war progressed. So a lot of time were spent in the basements or small rooms in newspaper offices gathering the information and compiling about specific camps. One of the favorite parts of my research was interviewing the local residents that lived near the camps. And when I traveled to the different communities to give presentations about the POW camp in the area, I often found that people had additional information for me about the local camp and also other camps across the state. So I got a lot of my information from presentations and local interviews.
Was there anything you found that surprised you?
Well, one of the most surprising and interesting things that I found during my research was how many Wyoming POWs remained prisoners long after the war ended, several months and sometimes several years. They were sent to other countries in Europe to help rebuild those war-torn countries. And I discuss some of those long journeys those prisoners had to take to eventually get home in my book.
I'm sure you came across a lot of great stories. Were there any that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I loved the stories shared by the prisoners and the U.S. military personnel. And one of my favorite stories was about the Christmas of 1944, when the prisoners and the military staff were snowbound at Camp Du Bois for several days with over 3 feet of snow. And the prisoners had put on a Christmas program in their mess tent, and they invited the military staff to join them to help celebrate Christmas. And they were provided with a special table, and they had special treats, candies, and beer, which was paid for by the prisoners themselves. And we have an account, we have 2 accounts actually, of that Christmas celebration, one by the camp commander and one by one of the prisoners who was at the camp. It was great to read about. The camp commander at Camp Du Bois took a lot of photos, which really helped us understand how the camps operated. And one of them was of the Christmas cakes in 1944 that the POW cooks made for this party, and that's included in my book. Another story that I really liked was told by one of the local residents in the Camp Deaver area, and he tells how the prisoners climbed over the fence at Camp Deaver and snuck out and went to his parents' farm to say goodbye. They had found out that they were going to be transferred to another camp the next day, and they wanted to say goodbye, and then how they needed to leave the house before daylight so they could sneak back over the fence into the camp. But one of the highlights of my research was working with government officials in Germany to try to locate Wyoming prisoners of war that might still be alive to share their memories. And they were able to locate one. He was 96 years old, and he was living in Germany, and he agreed to do interviews with us. So I interviewed him in written interviews as well as in a Skype interview with help from his grandson and a local high school German exchange student. And he shared his memories and feelings of what it was like to live in a prisoner of war camp in Wyoming. And one of the memories that he really enjoyed sharing was about the cowboys that he saw in the area. He was really fascinated with the cowboys that worked around the camp. And it was really good to hear, his take on life as a prisoner of war, both in Wyoming camps and other camps that he was sent to.
What do you hope those who read your book will come away with from it?
Well, I guess 2 main discoveries. First, I hope that an awareness and appreciation of the World War II POW camps in Wyoming is explored, and how the camps operated and the importance of the work that the prisoners did. Second, that the prisoners were well treated with humanity and respect in spite of all the challenges that they faced, and the U.S. military personnel and the local industries and the residents who lived in the area faced during the war and during the operation of those prisoner of war camps.
Now, what anybody who reads your book is going to want to know, do you have any plans to write any more books?
Well, I have no immediate plans to write another book at this time, but I am working on 2 smaller projects for a paper and article. And right now, I'm focusing on researching my father's World War II military records and learning more about his service in the South Pacific during World War II.
I'm sure that will be quite the story too. So, Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor well deserved, and congratulations on being our 2020 Wyoming Great Read author.
Thank you so much, Susan.